building team culture. I think it is the most important thing that you do. Nothing. I don't think there's anything that is more important. I will drop anything I'm doing in regard to scouting a team or watching film or whatever to make sure that I'm addressing the culture. And let me give you 10 things real quick to think about. Number one, winning the day-to-day. I think culture is built by what you do on a daily basis. You know, I think championships are won by what you do on a daily basis. And I think that messages your team more than you can imagine, okay? Putting the importance of what you do, where you are at that moment, being in the moment. Secondly, is building relationships. When I went to Seattle, and I had been through several building situations, and Seattle wasn't so much of a building situation as it was just trying to get them to championship level. But the first thing I did was get on a plane and go talk to Jewel Lloyd, Brianna Stewart, and Sue Bird, who were kind of my leaders on the team that I had become the coach of, and build the start of relationships. I knew them, but I wanted to know them in a way that as we worked together, they were representative of what I was trying to do with the team. Third thing is sometimes later is greater. We all in coaching want things to happen right now. But sometimes there's a process. Sometimes the ability to persist. And if I could give you as coaches anything, it's a persistent nature, because you're going to need it in a lot of ways. But sometimes those things take time. And whether or not you get it on day one, sometimes that pursuit leads to a later is greater, because the journey teaches you things, and now all of a sudden you've arrived at a point where it starts to happen on a daily basis. And so think about that. The fourth thing is empowering others. You know, we often think about what we want to do. Well, when we use the word we've got to empower people around us. We got to empower the people that are working with us. We got to empower the team to have ownership. And I think that's really important. You will find motivation is incredibly enhanced when there is an empowering feeling among your team, among your staff, among the parents. All kinds of things can help build those type of things. Number 5 is embrace the grind. I hate to say it, but nothing comes easy. There is a period where it's going to get hard. And sometimes, you know, it is difficult, but you keep putting one foot in front of the other. You know, you look for people who are going to join you in embracing the grind. You talk about it with your team. You know, even if you read the Bible, you're not going to be without challenges. You know, that's not the world. That's not what we live in. But those challenges can be part of a journey that teach you a great deal, an absolute great deal. And so you don't run away from the grind. You actually use it to help prepare that culture and that team to their greatest heights, especially as time goes on. The 6th one is actions are greater than words. We as a coach can talk and communicate, but I think the most effective means of communication is what you do. And I think that's important that we understand it. I talk less every year I've coached, to be honest with you, to the team. And in some cases, I know that my actions are going to say a lot about what I'm doing. I also understand that I want empowerment, from my assistant coaches, from people that are helping me. And if they make a statement, I want the players to realize that's much the same, if not exactly the same, as a head coach making that statement. And so those things become important. 7 is master the art of teaching. That's really important that you consider yourself a teacher as a coach. And it's really important that you not only use effective means of teaching, but you also encourage your leaders on the team to also use effective means of teaching. How teams talk to each other. A lot of it can be really enhanced by effective teaching and using theories of teaching and helping your players communicate to their teammates in a way that is also respectful of the art of teaching. I'll give you some examples. I believe that within a situation of communication, player to player, me to a player, 3 out of 4 times I should be talking about what we want to do as opposed to what we didn't do. About 1 time out of 4, it's okay to say, you know what, that was just a really poor checkout. I would rather for 3 times prior to that have said, you know what, you got to get your weight back on that closeout. You know what, raise your hand on that closeout. Make sure you got a wide bait. And then at some point I say, bang, you did this, that's wrong. But I think and I kind of want the team talk. It's just amazing how if players will talk to each other in an effective way, how it can really aid the culture. Number 8, always be open to change for a better way. No matter how long I coach, no matter how much, background I have, if there's a better way to do something, I'm interested. And I think you want to come across in that pursuit with your team and like that. And you are constantly, look, I'll give you an example. I'll give you 2 examples. One, I learned it from Pat Summitt, who was one of the greatest women's basketball coaches to ever, well, one of the best basketball coaches, period. But I always, as I got to know her, watched her looking for a better way. And then I landed in San Antonio, and the Spurs were exactly the same. And I thought, there's something to that. So keep that in mind. Number 9, leadership is most on display when you develop leaders. Now, I think it's important for all of us to be leaders, but I think it's most on display and it's a higher level when you're about developing leaders. If I had a choice between me being effective as a leader and me taking a player and helping that player become a leader on the court, I'd take that. I'd take that. Because I think it's important that you're about developing leaders, whether it's with your staff or people helping you, or whether it's on the court. I think that's a higher calling. And the longer I'm in this, the more that's my pursuit, as opposed to me being a good leader. Lastly, is build your team with teammates. It's really interesting. I had a chance to talk to Emma, who spoke before me here, and she was talking about a member of my staff that she had played with, and she said to me, Coach, she was the best teammate. You don't understand how I just celebrate that. I just celebrate that because that's what really creates a culture that is healthy, that ability to be a great teammate. And I will tell you 2 things. that always go through my mind when I look about adding players to a team, and whatever influence I have in yes or no or what have you. One is, do they have a WNBA talent or skill, that we can use on the team? But number two, are they a good teammate? Do they give energy as opposed to take energy? I need to say yes to both of those for me to really get behind an addition of that player. And so I would have you think about that. Um, in closing, I love talking to coaches all around the world, and I look forward to being helpful wherever I can.